Today we're going to learn how to knit in the round with circular needles. Now normally when you're knitting on flat needles like this, the fabric that you end up with looks like this, right? So the fabric is pretty flat, which is great for scarves or blankets or coasters. Basically things that sit flat like this are perfect for knitting on 2 needles. But let's say you want to knit a pair of socks or hats or mittens. What those things have in common is that they are knit in the round. So they are kind of circular shaped. So in order to knit any of these things, you're going to need to learn how to knit in the round. Now, something that's been knit in the round looks like this. So this little sample that I made was knit in the round, and you can see that it is actually round, right? It's circular in shape and it's also seamless. So today we'll learn how to do that using circular needles. So circular needles look like this. There is a needle attached to a flexible cable, and attached to that is another needle. So circular needles come in different lengths. The one I'm holding is 16 inches, but we'll talk about different lengths and why we need them at the end of this video. For now, let's get straight into the demo on using circular needles. So I've casted on some stitches onto my circular needles, and I'm knitting with a pair of 16-inch circular needles in this example. And I'm knitting a hat, so I've casted on about like 92 stitches or so. And your pattern will tell you how many stitches you should cast on. So now that I've cast on my stitches, I'm ready to join in the round. But before I do that, it's important to make sure that your stitches are not twisted. Now what this means is if you look closely at your stitches, you can see that there's kind of a sort of a raised braided section, right, on your stitches here and your cast on stitches. And the rest of your stitches kind of wrap around your needle, right? But there's this sort of raised area here. So you want to make sure that this area is all facing the same direction across all of your stitches. So let's take a look here. This area is great. It's all facing inwards. So let's move down across our cast on stitches and see, yep, these are all facing the same direction. They're facing inwards. That's perfect. And let's move across and see that yes, these are also all facing the same direction, and that's perfect. So when all our stitches are facing the same direction, that means that our stitches are untwisted. They're good to go. If your stitches are twisted, they'll look kind of like this. So I'm going to intentionally put a twist in my work. And here you go. You can see that our stitches are facing the same direction until they get here. And then at this point, there's a twist, right? It kind of goes around our circular needle and then ends up inwards, right? But this braided raised section is now facing outwards. So we need to untwist that. So what I would do is untwist that area so that now all of our stitches are facing the same direction. They're facing inwards, right? Inwards, 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 and you can kind of just move it if you have to, just to make sure that they're all facing the same direction. And this is good. So when your stitches look like this, they're all facing the same direction, they're not twisted, no twist in there, then we can join in the round. All right, so now that our stitches are untwisted, we are ready to join in the round. Now before we do, it's important to make sure that the needle that's attached to your ball of yarn, right? So my ball of yarn is right here. Make sure that that needle is in your right hand. So I'm going to switch hands here and move that needle to my right hand. So what we're going to do now is we're going to push our stitches sort of close to the tip of our needle. So sometimes your stitches can get kind of bunched up when they're cast on. So just push them up so that they're close to your needle tips like this. All right, perfect. Now before we join, we're going to mark the beginning of our round with a stitch marker. So a stitch marker basically looks like this. This is my stitch marker. It basically is a little round ring-like shape. And this is called a split ring stitch marker, which just means that I can open and close it like this. But you do not need a fancy stitch marker at all. You can use anything that is sort of ring-like, okay? So for example, you could use a rubber band, okay? This would make a perfectly fine stitch marker. Or you could even use like a ring, and I'm wearing a ring on my finger. You could even use a ring and just slip that right onto your needle. Doesn't really matter, okay? Just needs to be a circular ring-like thing. So here I've got a stitch marker, and I'm just going to put this right onto my right needle. And this basically marks the beginning and the end of our round, right? This tells us where our round starts. All right, so now that we've done this, then we can officially join in the round. Woohoo! So I'm going to push my stitches up close to the tip of my needle, Then I'm going to take my right hand needle and go into that first stitch. Okay, so I'm going to knit my first stitch. There we go. I'm going to push my needle right in there, and then I'm going to take my yarn and just knit into it. Okay, and then pull it off. And now I'm going to pull kind of tightly on this first stitch, okay, because I don't want there to be a weird little gap that forms. I want it to be nice and tight. So I'm going to pull, there we go. And now you can see that our knitting is joined in the round. We are connected. So now we can start knitting. All right, so whatever your pattern tells you to do, your stitch pattern, you would just start knitting. This would be considered your first round or round 1 in your pattern. All right, so you would work across your whole needle all the way around, and when you get to your stitch marker, you would just slip that stitch marker over to your needle and just continue knitting. So that's pretty much all there is to knitting in the round. All right, so you might be wondering, what's the big deal with this whole twist thing? So what if I put a twist in my work? What's the big deal? Who cares? All right, so I'm going to show you what happens when you put a twist in your work before you join, okay? So cautionary tale here. So this is a cowl, a little mini cowl that I made kind of as a sample for my niece. And you can see that it is knit in the round, it's circular. But, dun dun dun, I put in a twist here, and this is what my twist looks like, okay? So I made a twist before I joined in the round, and then I noticed after a couple rounds, but I just kept going because I wanted to show you what a twist looks like, and this is exactly what it looks like. It is literally a twist in your work. So if you're knitting like a hat or a mittens or socks or anything that needs to eventually come to a close, a twist is just not going to work, okay? If you're knitting like a cowl like this, yeah, you could still wear this, right, with a big twist in it, but anything that comes to a close, it's not going to work. And if you find that you have a twist in your knitting, there is really no way around it other than pulling your work off your needles and just ripping it out, okay, and starting all over again. So this is really kind of a sudden death situation. Once you have a twist, there's no other way forward other than to go backwards, rip it out, and redo it. Okay, so that's why you should really make sure that all of your stitches are untwisted before you join. So remember, don't get it twisted when you're knitting in the round. So let's talk briefly about needle lengths. Okay, so circular needles, just like regular needles, come in different sizes. Okay, so this circular needle is a 6mm, this is a 7mm, this is a 10mm. They come in the exact same sizes that regular flat needles come in. But there's another variable, which is the length of the needle. So you can see here, let's get these out of the way first. This needle here is a 16-inch circular needle. So from this tip all the way to this tip, it measures 16 inches. Now this needle is great for knitting hats. So let's take a hat out here, okay? So a hat is generally about, you know, anywhere from like 17 to 21 inches. So if you think about a finished measurement of a hat being, let's say on average, 19 inches, that 19-inch amount of fabric needs to be able to fit on the circular needle that you're knitting it on, okay? So this is a 16-inch needle. Generally, hats are knit on 16-inch needles, and the reason is that if you take a look at this circular needle here, and I just hold it tip to tip, you can sort of imagine the stitches of the hat sitting pretty comfortably on a 16-inch needle. Now, a lot of the times people will ask, well, can I use like a 24-inch needle or another size needle? And the answer, if you're knitting circularly in this way, is not really. I mean, you could, but it's not going to be comfortable, and I'll show you why. So, whoops, wrong needle. Here we go. So this is a pair of 24-inch needles, okay? So from tip to tip, this needle measures 24 inches. So let's see, if I hold the tips together, you can see that's pretty big, okay? So let's see, can I actually knit a hat with 24-inch needles? Well, this is my hat right here, and if I hold it against the hat, you'll see that the hat, can it fit on these needles? Can all the stitches on this hat fit on a 24-inch needle? Well, you know, you would really have to stretch it out, right? You'd really have to stretch it out like, whoa, crazy stretching, in order to get the hat to fit on a pair of 24-inch needles. So could you do it? Yes, you could, but your hat will be kind of stretched out of proportion, in my opinion, and it wouldn't be a very nice knitting experience. And furthermore, your knitting tension might be all out of whack because you're literally stretching this hat across this big needle, right? Like, look at this. How is this hat going to fit on this needle? It's going to be crazy hard. So generally, the rule of thumb is you want needles that are smaller than your finished, object. So my finished object here is my hat. Let's say it's 19 inches. So I know for sure that the hat can fit comfortably on a pair of 16-inch circular needles, which is smaller than the finished measurement of my hat, okay? So just to really, bring this home, I've got a pair of 32-inch needles here, okay? So this is very, very wide. This would be great if I was knitting a sweater. So can I knit a hat on 32-inch needles? Well, I mean, just take a look at this, right? I'd have to stretch my hat to pretty intense proportions. I mean, I'm not even sure I want to try. Can I stretch it out onto 32-inch needles? I don't think that I can. Not with this method of knitting in the round. There's another method called magic loop, which, yeah, maybe you could knit a hat on 32-inch needles using magic loop, but for this method that we just talked about in this video, the answer is no. No, you cannot. You will need to use a pair of 16-inch needles, okay? So remember, the rule of thumb is that you want circular needles that are smaller than the finished size of whatever it is that you're knitting. So if the finished measurements of your hat is 19 inches, you'll want circular needles that are smaller than 19 inches. So 16 inches would be perfect. So that's how you knit in the round using circular needles. Thanks so much for watching this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, then consider liking this video and subscribing to this channel for more knitting tips and pattern tutorials. And hey, if you want to try more circular knitting, then check out the seed stitch cowl or the cushy cowl pattern tutorial, both of which are perfect for beginners. All right, I'm Davina of sheepandstitch.com. Thanks for watching and happy knitting.